Good morning, and welcome to today's webinar on the topic of cybersecurity and NIS2, modernizing energy and manufacturing. My name is Carol, marketing manager at Cypro, and I'll be one of your host members today. So we really glad you're here joining us, and we hope that this session will offer insights as our industry now adapt more to new cybersecurity requirements. So have a look at our agenda. We will have a quick intro, then start with a real-world story of NIS2 in OT and IT, presented by our keynote speaker, Angeliki Nicolaou, Chief Information Security Officer, a service that can be provided by Cypro. Then we move into a Q&A session and wrap up just before noon. So before we begin, just a quick reminder, you can use the chat functions here in Teams to ask questions or share your thoughts as we go along. The Q&A will be at the very end, but you can post any questions throughout the session. And be aware that there are some polls gonna pop up on your screen for your inputs. The event today is being recorded, and if you would like to have the recording or a white paper on this topic, please just enter your email in the chat or talk to us at contact@cypro.se. So with that, I would like to introduce Christian, founder of Cypro, to have a few words before we begin. So Christian, over to you.
All right, thank you, Carol, for that nice introduction. And it's great to have all of you here in spite of this busy springtime before schools are ending and everything. So we're very happy that you spend this time with us. This series of webinars is for you having a key role in an organization related to security, as that is the topic. And wanted to start with a couple of questions for us working in this industry. How many times have you asked for more resources and budget related to security? Is that a common question? How many times have your arguments for security not worked? That you see something, but they don't see it. Is that something that is on your mind? So in this meeting today, we have a lot of leaders in this industry from different countries, verticals, and you need to act. And also, maybe the reason why you are here is that that's also what you want, because you see the risks that your organization is facing. And the risks that we see, they are realistic, and we can do something about it. We need to help each other out to change, to help open eyes for other people and for them to see the truth. We are in this industry and we know a lot about it, but we have a mission to work with other people to also get them along. So in a way, this webinar is for helping you, having a key role in this industry, also to help yourself and to facilitate your work related to this area. Taking a step back, cyber risks are here to stay, and it is time that we do something about it. That we see the statistics coming more and more clear to us, up from the dark. For example, there's a 60% risk of getting out of business in 12 months if you're down a day due to cyber risk regarding the SME market. That's time to do something. Time to do something about that. We see that there is as low as 50% fulfillment only to the law that is being rolled out across EU. And many don't know about it. And it's time for us to do something about that. So a few words about Cyber only here. Cyber is supporting many NIS2 related companies with our portfolio of services. We hope we can share this with many of you starting today. We are happy to share, and this is a knowledge sharing session. As said, we in this call we are, as we could hear in the beginning, we have leaders from all across, but we have the same legislation. So we hear Portugal, Greece, etc., and up to the north of Europe, and we are all under the same laws and can learn a lot from each other, and we can help each other out. So we are the leaders of our time, and we can make the change happen. It's our hope, and we think it's fully possible. We would like you to see what we are experiencing today as a platform of yours to find arguments that you can use in your job, in your position, in your organization. Also to find new peers to share with and learn from. You will have a possibility to see who we have invited and who could make it today or not. Excuse me. Again, relating to what Carol said, please step forward during this hour because already see Dimitrios sharing his email, fantastic. And let us know what your thoughts are in the chat, in the poll, or by email. That was like a little bit of introductory words. And I really happy to see all of us being here together. Would like to introduce Henrik from Cypro being our moderator today. Henrik, you have spent the last 20 years of your life in security, so I think you have seen a lot, and I hope that you can bring good inspiration to us today when we listen and you interact, share your experiences with Angeliki. Please take it on, Henrik.
Thank you so much, Christian. I wanted to start just talking a bit more around why we wanted to offer up this webinar series. And as Christian was mentioning as well, the world is ever changing. The cybersecurity threats are ever increasing in nature. And we also see the macroeconomic or macro landscape changing as well. And cybersecurity becomes definitely a key element to consider. And if you're also representing a organization that might be of in terms of a national critical infrastructure, this is definitely a series that will be of interest for you. The mission we have here is really to help organizations to create this forum where we can exchange ideas, get much more holistic, human-centered cybersecurity view, and also look at how do we actually comply to regulations that are out there. But ultimately, it is about making you more safe and more secure in your everyday life. The whole purpose with this is actually to bring in real-world experiences and real-world examples and from different sectors, such as energy, manufacturing, the public domains across the EU supply chain. And this is also where it's very nice to see that there are so many different countries represented here, everything from the Nordics to Greece and Portugal and Germany, and we have the Benelux and the UK represented here as well. So it's very nice to see the full domain across all of these different verticals as well. So the whole purpose here as well is to create a community where you can exchange ideas, thoughts, and also your challenges that you might be facing as well, to be lifting them up and get insight in terms of what your peers might be doing about it already. So it's a great way to learn and grow together. Also, if you do feel like you have done work, we are also setting up in the end of the session, we're going to do like a poll, what else you'd like to cover in the upcoming webinars. If you, for example, have a story you would like to tell, please share that as well. We're eager to hear from you as well. With that, I want to take it on and introduce our keynote speaker, Angeliki Nicolaou. And Angeliki has a very good and solid experience from energy and utilities, industry and manufacturing. She's been working with and supporting the digital transformation in several different organizations. So we're going to be covering a bit more, some challenges with that. And she's more notably also a cybersecurity officer driving the security agenda in her organizations. So Angelica, please welcome, and looking forward to hearing your story.
Yeah, thank you all for coming. Good morning from me. Hi, my name is Angeliki Nicolaou, and I am based in the Netherlands. So I'm mostly working in the Benelux market as an enterprise architect and as a cybersecurity officer. As a cybersecurity officer in my organization, that is a bit smaller, is acting as a CISO that Carol mentioned before, meaning having the leading in the cybersecurity strategy of the company. A bit more about me and why I am working mostly in the energy environment, utilities, industry and manufacturing. I have studied electrical and computer engineering with a master's in renewable energy. I started my career working in IT, and gradually I grew to an architect role, and by the last 3-4 years I'm focusing also on cybersecurity. The reason I did this transition is because I think that using legal frameworks to standardize technology is a very interesting and complex puzzle. And I think what the European Union is doing around directives as the NIS2, or even other directives that are not necessarily around security, but it can be around technology, I find it the puzzle that really the puzzle I really want to solve. I have went through digital transformations in this sector. I have worked both in IT and OT, and yeah, my journey started, I think, when I decided to go in this technology trip when I started my career or my studies. As we all know, it's a quite closed industry, but it's really nice when you're in it, and especially if you manage to do it as a woman. So a few things about me. Please, if you want to know me more, you can always find me in LinkedIn or yeah, contact me freely. Before we go into the presentation, I would also like to understand the people who joined the call, who is in with me. So I will start with maybe our first poll. Could you please tell me what is your current role, a bit your expertise, or where you are, like in this sector?
I think when the poll is coming up here as well, it's also interesting to see that we do have, as I mentioned before, we have so many different countries represented here as well from all over Europe, all also with different roles as such. So it's a very nice and broad experience that I think is also here in the audience.
Mm-hmm. I really see that we have from many principals, like both the executives represented in this group, IT, OT, risk. This is quite nice. I hope I have to answer. I can give an answer to each one of you with my presentation. And just to make sure that we do that, I would also like to ask you, what is the key takeaways you would like to take out of this session? I see there is a consensus in the group. Most of the people want the practical recommendations for NIS2 compliance. I hope I can provide a few of those.
Yeah, it's also nice to see that there, the real life examples as well as the NIS2 compliance are really key drivers.
Yep. So, with no further ado, let's see my experience around it. So, How did I manage to conquer OT security in 4 simple steps? Starting a bit with the result of my journey the last 4 years, and the 4 basic principles that I came up with is know what you have. So first, you need to understand where you're starting from, then make it simple. Starting with security, that is such a broad principle, it can be sometimes scary. So just make it simple. How do you eat a cake? Piece by piece. So try to make it as simple as possible. Then after you're able to create and define your little pieces, then start fixing it. Start by governance, start by people, start by process, start by little things, and then try to grow grow in this. And then if you are doing that change, you always need to be ready, meaning that security has 2 sides. It has the one that you need to prepare, the insurance aspect of security, and then you have the one you need to be acting. Security can be a very slow principle, as long as you are not having an incident, but you need to be prepared if something goes wrong. So you need to have the first 3, and always you need to be ready for the unexpected. I will take you through how these 4 steps came in my story. So before we start, go ahead.
Yeah, I
Henrik.
just wanted to add, yeah, Angelica, I just wanted to add a comment there or a question for you as well. So when you see this, I mean, OT obviously has its own challenges in a lot of organizations today, and it's also one of the key things people are asking for. So how cybersecurity obviously is becoming more of a driver, and we also see the relevance, particularly when it comes to energy and manufacturing, is sort of a key thing in the supply chain, and also energy was being a key thing. Where do you find this being taken seriously enough, or is the NIS2 something that you'd feel is actually helping drive the agenda forward in the right way?
Yeah, I think NIS2 is definitely driving the agenda. It's something that it's an enabler in a lot of the companies. And the reason is because finally, as security people, we can go and say, here is a measurable part that you can see what you have to do. Before, it was very theoretical, and now I think is finally something that people can showcase why we need to do it. So NIS2 is the why, and that helps a lot in the industry. Yeah, I hope this answered the question, Henrik.
Yeah, it does for sure. I think the only follow-up question here, but we can also come to that later. But I think we can start talking about it here, maybe even if you feel then where security is. What I've seen in my experience is that security is quite often an afterthought, something that happens much later in a process. And you probably look at it, hey, we want to do this digital transformation and we want to do this big project. And then in the end, you might, oh, what about security? And I think I've seen that more than once. I'm not sure about the audience here if they've seen a similar experience. So where do you feel what needs to happen? And I also know you have personal experience sitting on both chairs, so to speaking. So how do you feel about?
Yeah, I do have some experiences about this. I was lucky enough that in my role I had both the hats of the leading the digital transformation of my company the last 4 years, but also needing to think about cybersecurity. So the one role was giving the thought to the other. For us, it was an accelerator to start thinking about security from the beginning, because 3 years in our digital transformation, we already had security in place. And this was something that allowed us to continue fast when the NIS2 directive came out. But with that, I think it's better to go through the use case, try to put people a bit in and see a bit the journey. So starting with that, before I'm going to share a bit how my journey began, I would like to start with a case study. So I would like to start with a theoretical company that maybe a lot of you can connect with. And let's say we are talking about the Dutch energy company. It's a company that does not exist. Let's call it DEC. It's not a very old company, but it's also 40 plus years in the business. So it does have a history. It does have a way that is working. This Dutch energy company can be either in oil and gas, chemicals, renewables, energy efficiency, manufacturing. It can be in many of these principles. So it works in the industry. It's a mid to a large size enterprise, and that's the reason it needs to comply with the NIS2. And it's also a global organization. It doesn't have to only be in Europe, but it's a global company. What this company can be, it can be an offshore oil platform, solar, wind, or battery parks, or I hope something that you guys are working in, you can think about it. But what my journey talks about, it talks about all of these industries. Then the question I want to bring to you at this one is, what is your bigger challenge for the NIS2 implementation? Now that we think a bit about the company that needs to comply to NIS2 or your company, what do you think is the biggest challenge of for implementation of NIS2?
There are definitely some interesting responses coming in here around both the lack of internal resources and the well, supply chain legacy systems, exec buy-in. Yeah, I even don't know where to start.
Yeah, I see that all of them are equally important based on on the results we see. My biggest challenge, just to answer back to you, is actually it was the culture change. The reason for that is because if you go to an old-fashioned industry that works for quite a few years, yeah, sometimes you need to persuade people. And it links back to what you, Hendrik, said about the needs to being actually an enabler of this change, to be able finally to showcase where we have to go. Next, before we go in, this is a bit of a poll, but also an open question. I want to ask the question back to you to go in a bit of a thought, is where does the transformation begin for you? Or where does this transformation begin for you? What do you think is the biggest transformation enabler in your company? And how much time does an actionable transformation take? So these are three questions that it took me a while to be okay with their answers. And also it took me a while to understand that not everything works the same way. Please think about them. You can write them either in the chat or you can write them on a paper or just think about them. It's just for you to start thinking the transformation in this way.
Yeah, it would be great to see some activity in the chat about this, because I think these are really big themes and definitely something that is a challenge in many organizations. So.
Yeah. Maybe I can start by answering the first question about what it was about me. So the beginning for me, it was when we actually started to discuss about it. So it was not about changing the processes or the technology, but the start, it was when the people were getting onboarded. So the beginning of our cybersecurity journey or our transformation in OT journey actually started when the company started discussing it. And when I say the company, I don't mean the people who are involved in this, but it's the people like the chief financial officer, trying to have a conversation around that. Or it was when we understood that OT will be a bigger problem in cybersecurity than in IT in our company. So it was when we started putting this in a perspective of everybody's mind and what it meant for each individual principle. So the beginning started when the awareness started in the company. And in an organization that is old-fashioned, you need to find, or it's an industry, you need to show to them what is their why. So we did had some cybersecurity challenges, bridging the gap between IT and OT, or what is cybersecurity, or a few of these things. So some of the challenges we had is that IT and OT were two different principles in a company, but at the same time, IT was responsible about the whole cybersecurity of the company, even in principles that had nothing to do with technology. So if there was a cybersecurity incident in finance, IT was responsible, meaning that this is not something you only see between IT and OT, but it was something that cybersecurity was a technical problem. Because of that, nobody felt responsible for the cybersecurity in the organization. And at the end, we had the problem that we couldn't understand our fully cybersecurity needs in an organization that has multiple departments that can be in information technology, but can also have a manufacturing aspect. And also, what is our most valuable product? Meaning, what is the first thing if you're under cyber attack you're gonna secure? Here I have two very basic diagrams, not something out of the box. I found them online to be fair. The first one is showcasing the cybersecurity priorities between an IT and an OT, that they're the same, but they are different priorities. In IT, we always have confidentiality first, and in OT, we have operations always first, meaning how much uptime your factory. So if your factory is down, you're losing money. And of course, in the next one, we have the integration or the convergence. That is a very hot topic, is the connection between IT and OT, is where do they find themselves, right? Because not everything needs to be covered by the other, but they do have a common part. If you have more questions about that, maybe you can pop it in and we can discuss it a bit later.
Yeah, and Angelica, I think just here what was very interesting as well is when you, and I think you captured quite well here, were the most valuable assets. And I think I've seen this also in so many other organizations where when you start thinking around what my attack surface is, meaning where could a potential attacker breach, you need to understand where the most valuable assets are, your crown jewels, so to speak. So you understand where they are, because that's basically the heart of the company or the organization. And it's very important.
Great comment. Your most valuable assets will also give you your priority list, meaning that if you start cybersecurity by doing all the fancy things, I don't know, in IT, or let's say in a Microsoft environment, but your problem is your factory, then in a risk attack, you will still have the problem that Hendrik just mentioned. So, continuing with that, what it was our biggest enabler in cybersecurity, or the transition in cybersecurity, is when we took it out of any technical principle and we made it on its own. So we did a split of cybersecurity and IT, and we made it its own principle, and we said that we all agreed that cybersecurity is a risk and insurance principle. It's as my CEO likes to call it, it's a necessary evil, meaning that it's something that you need to find it from a risk perspective and insurance. So cybersecurity touches more than IT. We agreed. It touches HR, OT, finance. It touches every aspect. And in an organization that has OT, it also touches safety and human safety. And we all agreed that IT also needs to comply with cybersecurity, and it doesn't need to drive it. It can be a bigger driver, it can be an advocate for it, but it needs to comply with the requirements of cybersecurity. And so we did this. This was a maturity decision. It was for people's understanding what it means. And it was our biggest accelerator. It was when we gave time to people to understand this. So the theoretical background of cybersecurity.
And then, Angelica, it's just interesting here to just make a quick ask
Yeah.
to you as well. So if you think about then you were sitting on double chairs as well when this happened, right? So what do you really felt like? What was the biggest challenge when cybersecurity became something standalone, so to speaking, when it comes to navigating then the organization?
Yeah, for me, it was to be able to reach every person that needed to have this cybersecurity. That's why I also think the cultural change was the biggest challenge. I needed to cut communication lines short, meaning that we started with the departments with more maturity, like IT or OT that I was leading. So it was easy there. I needed to persuade myself, but then I had to go to the chief financial officer that we do collaborate in our everyday, and I say, hello, let's sit down together and let's discuss cybersecurity. Let's find the why this is important for you. So you pick one principle, we went through the same, then I needed to go to the next part. Then the next part was, let's say, GDPR compliance and privacy and HR and all these things that you can find in other companies. And I needed to say, hey, I know you're very busy with what you're doing, but let's discuss cybersecurity. So cutting communication lines for every person, finding the why answer for every individual principle, and then bringing them all together to design what cybersecurity means, because everybody had a different idea after we discussed it face to face, but then you need to bring them all together and agree what it is.
Yeah, and I think isn't it always like that when you make a good plan and then you put people in a plan, you always need to compromise somehow.
Yeah, a mentor that I had some time ago, he told me that the best solution is the one that nobody's happy about, that everybody feels that they compromise something, and that's the correct solution for your organization. So when we reached that point that everybody was a bit unhappy but a bit pleased about what we had to do, then we knew that we can continue forward with our cybersecurity journey. So now that we did all this pre-work, right, and cybersecurity was its own thing, we also needed to figure out what is the vision of this company. So DEC, what was the cybersecurity vision for a company like in manufacturing? And we knew that the NIS2 directive was coming in effect in 2024. So proactively, we investigated based on that. And the vision that we establish is actually being able to prove that we are NIS2 compliant. And the easiest way to prove that you are compliant with something is get a certificate about it, right? Put a stamp of approval. Give somebody who has the knowledge to tell you that, yeah, this company works based on this legal framework. But the problem was that is you cannot certify on the NIS2 directive. It's a directive. It's not a framework. It's not a policy. It's not a certificate. So how do you do NIS2 compliance on a directive as a company wanting to certify your processes, policies, or whatever you have? So out there are a lot of appropriate frameworks for different companies. Let's say ISO 27001, NIS2 is a directive, IC 62443, that is for manufacturing. But at the same time, all of these are European, meaning that if you are a multinational company that is also in Asia and in the US, how do you come together and say, okay, we can showcase? For what we went through, for us, it was to make a combination of all of these things by developing our own internal business policies and tools, that they were based on a lot of these frameworks and the directive as a combination, and change them based on things that they were changing, and find a solid framework that is recognized across the globe, and compare our tools to that. Is not an easy thing to be able to solve. But there is people who already are working in this way and can help out parallel. Again, sounds simple. It's much more work than I would have wanted it to be. So after we establish our vision, I would also like to ask you just to see where we are. So for us, this was our preparedness, where we were before the NIS2 directive, but where are you on this journey at this moment? Okay. Okay. I see that the answers are split between just learning about it, started. It's also nice to see that some people are following this, even though they don't have to comply with the NIS2. Yes. Okay. So I would also say that even if you have a few years of experience or you're in this journey, I would still say you were never finished. So you cannot be fully prepared for everything. So I would also put myself in started and not finished. Having said that, and now that we saw a bit of a pre-work to be complied to framework, let's see what is NIS2, okay? So I tried to make a very simplistic slide for you about what is exactly NIS2, what is the goal of it, why is it needed, and why is it important for you specifically. So as we said, NIS2 is a directive. A directive is to show you where you have to go, but every country in the European Union needs to write a law about it. Also, we have to understand that the NIS2 directive is the minimum level of cybersecurity that every country needs to comply with. Meaning, if a country wants to have stricter rules, let's say, as example, Belgium, they have stricter cybersecurity laws than the NIS2 directive. So you need to investigate a bit further on how to do it. What is the goal of it? Is to elevate the cybersecurity level of all European Union countries and at least establish a minimum level of what we have to comply with. It has technical, operational, organizational measures. It doesn't only touches technical, but it's also about processes, people, and how this is changing. Why was this regulation needed? We are in a fast-paced technological advancement world, so we want to make everything smarter. If we even talk about AI, smart factories that people want to do, so we are constantly interconnected, and this means that also the threats are getting more interconnected in places that they were not touching before. We talk about the IT/OT infrastructure coming together and becoming more and more increased integrated. A good example is an automated plant, an automated factory that we discussed that doesn't have people anymore. And this touches also the physical world. So if you are in oil and gas and you're working in an oil platform, a cybersecurity attack can make the platform explode. Or a few years ago, when the Ukraine war was started, we had the fear that Russia will explode the main pipe, right? So how would they able to do it remotely? The pipe was under the sea. Yeah, it's through a cyber attack. It touches the physical world when we are talking about OT. It's no longer informational based. Why is it important for you as a person, as a company? Is that NIS2 shifts responsibility of cybersecurity to management. It's a risk policy. It's the same if a fire starts in your organization. So it's a risk policy. Management is responsible for cybersecurity. And what does it mean is that management bodies can get personal fines or additional sanctions about negligence, let's say, or about knowing a threat and not acting on it, or having not documented, or showing that they did not take cybersecurity, let's say, in an important way. And then you have wider fines for non-compliancy, meaning that your company will also get fined if you don't comply with the basic or minimum requirements of the NIS2 directive. This is why and what is the reason we're doing it, but what is actually the requirements that come out of NIS2? The requirements that actually come out of NIS2, you can find them in 3 articles, Article 20, 21, and 23, and you need to have governance, cybersecurity risk management and measures, and reporting and obligation. Very simplistic. This can be a very big thing that we can discuss about, but I just want to showcase it. And then now that you understand what is your NIS2 and what are the requirements, I wanted to say how we applied it in our organization. And it was about creating a cybersecurity roadmap. Here I put it a TOT unified one. And the reason was for understanding for my organization, but it's actually a cybersecurity roadmap that can be applied in an all IT company, in an all OT company, or in general, a company that needs to comply with cybersecurity. First one is establish foundational security. So for what we discussed so far, everything was phase 1. Is all the theoretical, is the maturity things behind it. We are talking about policies, procedures, assessment, planning, and of course, access and control. Access and control goes there because it doesn't need a technical background to do it. You can do it on a paper. Phase 2 is strengthen defenses and response capability. Here is where you have your actionable projects. We're talking about network security, endpoint, data protection, encryption, incident response. And the third phase is continuous improvement. This roadmap covers 80% of the work, and 20% was always needs to be reevaluated. So it needs to go back to phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and it changes. Let's say NIS2 in 2 or 3 years may be obsolete. Maybe we have NIS3. You never know. Hendrik, did you have a question? I think you.
Yeah, I think there's I think the other element that is sometimes important to think about is that if you think about the hacker motivation on the one side, you think about the maturity of the organization, and then you think about regulation. Do you feel that there's somewhere a discrepancy between what the regulations are adhering or forcing you to adhere to versus what the potential threat might be, if you would visualize that in one way?
Yeah, it's a very complicated answer to that. I think they're all accelerators, and sometimes you need to put your own priority. The one has heavy fines and the one has a catastrophe, and you need to say what is more important for you. Yeah. People tend to not see the threat. If you are not in risk, people tend not to see the threat until you have a threat. So the NIS2 actually was a bigger enabler for us than a cyber risk.
Of course it is, but it's more sometimes when you've been working in this for quite a long time, you almost get like an occupational hazard in that sense. So
yeah. Use cases, I don't know, we used to play tabletop exercises. This is what I call them, and I make these catastrophe scenarios. It's really nice to also do your organization, and then you bring different people, and then you make something explode. At least in my business, I could make something explode by the end. So it was really fun to show the catastrophe from that perspective. So, question maybe to think about. We did our maturity. We have a vision for the company. We know what we have to do. We have a cybersecurity roadmap. What is the next step? Is a step of assessment and planning, meaning how do you assess what you have? And the best way to do it is audit yourself on a risk level, right, Henrik? What we just discussed.
Exactly.
before you are going down this risk assessment, ask yourself who is going to audit and assess you. Most companies don't have an auditing department, except if you're a very massive one. I would say find the correct partner to do it for you. Find somebody who has the experience, but also can support your organization and in the level you want it to. What is your scope? This goes back to what is your most valuable thing, where you want to start, because you cannot start with everything. If you are a hospital, maybe ask from start from your most personal identified information for patients is, I think, the most important thing that you have in your organization. So first, scope. It's very important to scope on your risk assessment, and don't think that one risk assessment covers everything in your organization. And the third one, what is the security level you're assessing? Security level means that if you are a company that does, I don't know, payroll, is not the same scope of security, the same level as a company that does military intelligence. So you need to see in which security level you are and how secure you would like to do your organization. These is 3 things you need to know before you go assess. After you finish your assessment, you get results. This is an example of how CPRO is doing the risk assessment and gap analysis, and you can get all these analytics that can actually support your further implementation and actually the projects you're going to do. Is a really nice way to showcase what is actually happening and why cybersecurity is important. After you have this as an example, you need to go reevaluate, meaning that you already have a strategy, you already have a roadmap, but maybe your roadmap needs to change in more actionable steps based on what you got out of your assessment. And this is exactly what we did after our own assessment. And because we wanted to certify it on a framework and our assessment was showcasing that, we went and we created an additional roadmap. I call it the action roadmap, that it was phase 1, audit and risk assessment. We did it. We defined the scope, we determined our security levels, identified critical assets and assets vulnerability that came out of the assessment, and then we defined an OT team in cybersecurity as well, meaning the responsibility we put in this phase. Phase 2, we implemented cybersecurity policies and controls. After the assessment, we actually got actionable projects that needed to happen in order to get certified, that it was incident responding, that it was also a requirement from NIS2, access control and identity management in a manufacturing environment that was quite hard, network segmentation, and secure software development lifecycle. So those are a few projects that came out. And last but not least is to actually bring the people to help you certify. So actually certify on the framework that you did your assessment. And this doesn't mean it finishes. It doesn't finish. You need to go back again and again. And that's something we had to learn the hard way, because we already did this once 2 years ago, and then after NIS2 we needed to do it again. So it's something that if you put it from the beginning, you save that, but at the same time, it always has an element of going back. So how does this translate on a NIS2 pragmatic approach? So we discussed all of these things, but actually, if I translate it exactly on the NIS2 in a pragmatic approach, first, entities in scope. So find what you have, find what needs to be there, right? Is it your product? Is it your customer? Is it you? So find what is in scope of NIS2. Then compliance roadmap. That was the first roadmap we showed, right? That was the theoretical cybersecurity roadmap. How do you do it in a general way? These 2 policies also have technical and legal implications. Then we have the third, that is identify the gaps. fix the roadmap, and then action. So this follows exactly the way we did it. To finish up, I want to just leave this on the page. That is just some conclusions and maturity accelerators that I think for our organization helped out, and is these 5 points. Having said that, I saw that I talk a bit too much, so we have the Q&A and the wrap-up. Sorry for that. I was a bit excited about my journey. I hope it helped you as well. Any questions?
Yeah, so I can take them up here, Angelica. There's been quite a nice comment here from Thomas, who says, "Do you believe NIS2 will be enforced? I don't see any laws yet coming out of the EU. We live in a world of directives, so will you always be exposed by the weakest link in your supply chain?"
Yeah, actually, there is countries that have enforced it. A good example, and a week after the NIS2 directive came out, is Belgium. So there is some countries that already have the legal framework, and we expect 7 or 8 more countries to bring it this year. So they're taking it seriously of making the law. And the enforcement that is quite interesting for NIS2 is that there is a company responsibility to register themselves to comply with the law. So if you're a company that are under NIS2, something that you need to know is that you need to go register yourself, that you need to comply, and then they're going to come and audit you. So that's, I think, a smart way they made it in order to need to comply with this. They shift responsibility to the company itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes full sense.
Yeah. Any other questions?
There were no other ones in the chat. No.
Yeah. I think people can also reach out always if they have more questions about that to Christian or Thea or Cipro in general. But maybe we can go then to our last poll question.
Yes, where we want to figure out what topics you'd like us to cover in the upcoming webinar, or webinars as well, for that matter, so we can prioritize them a bit. This is really helpful for us to understand more where we should put the focus. Yeah, we see some more good inputs coming in here. I can actually just make a quick example of myself. I've been spending a bit of time in cybersecurity, as Christian was mentioned, and I think one of the more interesting elements was I was out on a ship in the North Sea, and we were doing penetration testing, or doing like white hacking, if you will. The scary thing for me that happened there was we were actually able to sit in the bar of the ship. And we sat there with a beer, and the guy with me, he was just putting a cable into an RJ45 socket in the wall behind him. And we were just there with a laptop, and nobody looked at it. You know, it's like, oh, they're just sitting there doing some work and having a beer. Nothing strange. But from there, we were able to then reach the onshore data center with 17,000 usernames and passwords. We became domain admin in the entire organization by sitting in the bar. That was quite scary. But even worse, from there, we could also go and actually take over the navigation system of the ship. And the worst part would be that we actually were able to reach the ballast tanks, so we could literally sink the ship as well. So this is more from I would quote it more from a terrorist attack point of view, and we were also then out in the North Sea, so you could actually steer the ship into one of the oil rigs or something like that. And then if you have like 2,000-3,000 people on board a ship and doing that could be literally a catastrophe, right? So yes, I do know. I've seen it actually being a realistic option, and that's why you sometimes I for one actually become very skeptic when I hear some people were being naive about it, but
It's really scary. It's also really interesting you sharing that. This it's very eye-opening, right? There
this
is
is
a lot of cases like this. Also, the massive energy attack that happened 2 years ago in May with the Miriam.net, very simplistic virus that they just shared in IoT devices, and they could access the Belgium energy grid, or what happened now with Spain, right? And that they were out for a whole day. But
Exactly.
let's maybe wrap up this session because we are on the time.
Yes.
With giving back the floor to Christian.
Very, very quickly. Thank you so much for attending. It's been great, I think. Thank you, Angeliki, for a great presentation. I think it was very helpful with all the responses from the polls. And what I can read from it is that there is still companies and people that are starting this journey regarding NIS2, and that there is a need of getting more similar type of presentations like this about how NIS2 is to be implemented and to share information with each other, and most likely primarily based on the 7-8 countries you mentioned, Angeliki, that are implementing it this year. So I think by knowledge sharing and focusing on success stories from those countries and spreading it to us, for example, that haven't yet implemented it, would create some value looking at the total results. So, but it's great to hear some feedback on what is important. So please also send more questions or feedback, and we're happy to work accordingly.
Sure. Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you very much for this, and
Thank you so
I think
much.
look forward to see you next time.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us in this, and thank you for the nice comments in the chat. Have a great day.
You too.
Great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.